Welcome to the Aesthetics Injector Gang podcast. Having a gang of mentors in this industry has been a blessing that we wanted to share with you. Our core group has been traveling together and comparing notes about life and business for years. Tune in as we delve into topics with others in the industry that you are sure to love and make you laugh.
Hey everybody, we are back again this week with another episode of the Aesthetics Injector Gang podcast. I'm joined by the lovely Sarah Manifold. She's part of our DC DMV crew. Love her. Welcome, Sarah. How are you?
Good. Thank you guys for having me.
Absolutely. How are you feeling? Sarah's just coming off a little surgery here. So she has some downtime. She's really, really busy. She is, I'm sure you guys have seen from our previous podcast, she is physician's assistant in the ER. So she's always like pulling crazy shifts, crazy busy. And she is an injector with SP Med Spa in DC. So how's your recovery going, Sarah?
I'm going insane. I like working, so having like a week and a half off of work, I am driving my boyfriend insane. I am driving everyone of our friends insane. I keep wanting to just go out and do things, and he's like, no, you have to stay. And I'm like, okay, yep. So, but thankfully we're on the downward turn of this. I go back to work tomorrow, actually. So everything's fine.
Awesome. Are you ER or are you in the med spa tomorrow?
Tomorrow I'm doing a half shift in the ER just to kind of get back in the swing of things. They texted that I needed coverage and I said, sure, why not?
Of course, you're like super crazy bored. So you're like, yeah, let me go to the ER. I'll get some regular ER crazy life back in my personal life. Yeah,
exactly.
So awesome. Well, you got your drinks. You're ready. I have only 1 Celsius right now. You know, we always have multiple bevs here with the gang. What do you got hydrated with today?
I got 3. I got a normal water, I got a sparkly LaCroix water, and then I've got half an iced coffee here.
I think Brandy had like 5 to 6 drinks she posted on Instagram yesterday, and I literally was like, so I've had 2 drinks today. 1 was a coffee, and 1 was like an electrolyte water or something. I think everybody was slacking yesterday, even Brandon.
Yeah. I had like 7 or 8 yesterday.
Oh God. I was really behind then because I think I legitimately had to. But so let's get into it. So what I really wanted to tackle this week with you was kind of social media. You and I kind of had a unique connection I think it was around Christmas time. I was doing like just crazy stuff. I was still in my physician's office, just was like not happy, having a hard time, growing pains, things like that. And you and I have kind of experienced, I think everybody in the gang's experienced that, honestly. We've all had that med spa doctor's office we're super unhappy with. But it was like I was on the verge of trying to like grow a brand, figure my life out. And I think I was doing Christmas cards, and like, of course, the Christmas cards I was stuffing with Starbucks gift cards for everybody in the gang. And you had just like randomly reached out to check in on me, and we just kind of started getting into the social media influence, and kind of just how that makes us feel when, clickbait, there's tons of influencers, injectors on social media. And you just had given me like some really solid advice. And I just kind of wanted to delve into like your opinions. You're the youngest one I think you're one of the youngest ones in the gang. I'm like a geriatric millennial, but
you are not.
I think so. Like Sarah, Evelyn, and Brandon. I don't know. I'd need, and maybe Angela. I'd have to like get everybody's ages and put them in a chart. But
I think Angela's younger than me.
I think she's a baby.
Yeah, she's like the baby of the group. But like I met Ashley when I think I was 26. Maybe 27. And now I'm old and I'm 30. I'm 30. Ugh.
Sarah's also finding life after 30, everyone. So,
but it's not going great.
You just had your surgery. You're onto a new life. It doesn't matter.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, we always associate like younger people as having like, they're on Instagram all the time. I think I'm probably on Instagram more than you are.
Uh-huh.
And I'm in that like older percentile of who like wouldn't be on Instagram more. So, I just kind of wanted to like get, like your mantra towards, like as an injector, how do you tackle just social media? Because, you know, like you're big on TikTok. I love your TikToks, but,
Thanks.
you know, how do you, okay, let's just start with like, how do you manage social media as an injector?
I hate it. Like, I'm just going to start there. So I manage it because it's a necessary evil and it is part of our job. When I first started social media, it was back in 2017 or 2018. I made an Instagram and I felt like I was just checking it all day. And there was really no separation between like work life and my home life. And I still work part-time in the ER because I love it. And I still do part-time in aesthetics. But at that time I was actually doing full-time in the ER and like more than part-time in aesthetics. And so I did not have a great work-life balance. And then social media kind of just lumped onto that. So I definitely struggled with it for a few years. And then I personally think Instagram has evolved over the last few years. Especially in like the injector world. I more use it for education now. I love that people post educational videos, other injectors. I learn a ton on Instagram. I don't necessarily use it a ton for self-promotion. I have my clients. I like my clients. My clients, it's more of word of mouth that they'll pass along other people to me. But the one thing I will say that I do love about social media is my ability to directly connect with my patients. So since I'm only in the office 2 to 3 days a week, if you call the office on a day that I'm not in there, the front desk then kind of has to loop me in. And it's just like a middleman. I think we've all been there. Like you've all tried to get in touch with your primary care doctor or your orthopedic or whoever your provider may be. And it is impossible to actually like get them on the phone or like get in touch with them. So that's actually what I use my social media for now is education. I follow all of the injectors who I love and who I think are great educators. And for my patients, just to directly reach out to me. I pretty much every morning after I inject, I get DMs from patients like, hey, is this normal? Is this not normal? So sorry, I forgot to ask this. Like, here's a photo of X, Y, and Z. And it's a great way for me to connect with them. But I did not love it back in like 2017 and 2018 because I felt like I was comparing myself to every other injector out there. And that was toxic.
Exactly. So there's like so much information I like that you just dropped right there that I think it's like, no, it's great. I mean, it's so great because there's so many important topics like within what you just said. And I think number one, I think you hit the nail on the head with the work-life balance, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, there are days where I feel like I'm stressed and like thinking about like opening a business, doing this, doing that. And I will actually, kind of divert my energy into social media. And it's just like stupid clickbait stuff, right? Like I'm going to watch a video on, God, what was I into this morning? Harvesting pearls, like Tahitian pearls. Like what? I mean, it's interesting, but
it's whatever's on TikTok.
Yeah. It's a distraction, right? So it's very distracting behavior and it's unproductive. You'll find yourself out, you know, I actually, you know, I think one of the tips you gave me when I was having a hard time was setting a time limit on your Instagram.
Yep.
You know, so 30 minutes, your little flag comes up, get off of it. And that's like your hard stop, like get off your social media.
Yep.
So I think like you said, like work-life balance, because like you and I both shared a similar life of like working part-time, you know, well, we weren't really working part-time. We're working full-time. I was in the OR, still am. You're in the ER, still are there. And, you know, I probably have more downtime than you in the OR, than you do in the ER. But not getting like wrapped up and caught up in all that. I think another important thing, like you really kind of hit on was, you know, the self-promotion versus like the education. So we have a lot of influencers in injectable medicine now. And Mary Beth Hagen was from Titan Aesthetics was kind of talking about this on her podcast the other day, just about remembering that, you know, social media is great. It's fun to make funny reels and stuff, but like we have to remember we're professionals. And I think that's where, like you said, like you started following more of the education stuff. And kind of like, who do you really kind of feel like you love following that like helps you with the education?
Oh gosh, there's a few of them. Lori Robertson has been one that I have loved for forever.
Hmm.
And I remember she was like one of the first accounts that I followed, and she was the one that was doing education from my perspective. I mean, there might have been others, but she was doing it first. Um,
Yeah.
and she would be one of those people that I would just log on, look at her stuff, and then log off. You know, if you
Yeah.
look on Instagram right now, I'm following like, I don't know, 1,000, 2,000 people. I honestly have no idea.
Hmm.
I kind of have my like 7 or 8 accounts. Most of them are this gang.
Yeah.
And I will like touch base on you guys' stuff and then I'll log off. Um, and Shino Bay, he's another one that I really like to follow because he has a lot of really good educational stuff. Obviously, both of my bosses that I work for post a lot of educational stuff, and I'll do that. But I don't necessarily log on to do anything at this point except education, which I feel like is not what Instagram was made for, but it's what I've turned it into and it's working for me.
Yeah, and I think that's great because like you said, like you can turn your Instagram into what you want, right? Like
Yeah.
it's really hard to balance that, I really want self-promotion because I want my name out there, and now we have Instagram ads and you can promote certain posts. And I think like you said, like it's a balance. And I personally find that, if I click on a post and it starts making me feel bad about myself, like, why am I not here? Why is this injector doing so good? They only have 200 followers, but they seem to be booked every day. Like, it's just it gets a weird dynamic that we interact with the social media like this. And I think, some of the people that you follow only have maybe 1,000 followers, but in fact, they're booked out 6 months in advance. I think
Yep.
Ashley is a great example of that because that's what she told me in the past was like I don't have 30,000 followers, I don't have 1 million followers, but I'm booked out 4 months.
Yeah, exactly. So that's something that I think the general public should know. Like the amount of followers does not necessarily dictate how good of an injector you are.
Yeah.
I will say with Instagram, I now have a really healthy relationship with it, but I keep it up for my ability to connect with my clients. And then also I do post before and afters on there once every like 2 months, not often. For a while, it was much more often, but now I feel like it's also just a library of my work that people can find. Because at the end of the day, nobody's going to go to an injector who has no before and afters. In my opinion, that's the most important thing in our industry.
Yeah, and I think I heard somebody mention it like what did they refer? They referred to it like as a magazine ad, which now I'm really dating myself at this point. I'm like, who has magazines? Um, but it's like a magazine ad, so like it's great to have your content and your work on there because people do look at that. It is important when people are searching lip fillers, hashtags, which I guess hashtags are out now on Instagram, by the way.
I don't know. Don't ask me what's hip.
I'm like, I just get like a feed the other day that's like, Instagram hashtags aren't the thing. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't work with the algorithms. So
No.
I think even like trying to keep up with that is a lot, right? So I think like if you can afford to outsource some of those things, like definitely outsource them as an injector because your focus should be your work. And not necessarily your social media per se. Like I would happily pay someone if I had the money to do it. I just don't have it right now. But I think some people have found that it's very helpful to just kind of offload that task to someone else. So,
Yeah, and I struggle with that because, like I said, my first word out of the gate on this podcast was I hate social media. So I'm now going to kind of double back on that. I don't think I would ever outsource it because the feedback I've gotten from a lot of my clients is they love the ability to connect directly with me. It's like the reference I used earlier. Nobody can get a hold of their primary care doctor anymore.
yeah.
So if patients have a question or a concern, I've done a pretty good job of setting boundaries with my clients. Hey, if you want to book an appointment, you have to go through the front desk. I'm not going to be sitting here booking everyone's appointments. But if you have a question for me, hey, does this look normal? Hey, I'm getting a facial. Can I get filler right after? Like those kind of logistical questions. Absolutely. I want to be able to answer those and help offload the calls to the front desk. So while I would love to outsource my social media, and sure, if I had somebody who would create like reels and TikToks and all of that jazz, great. But I think I always want to be on the other end of my DMs.
Right. Yeah. Because you want to make sure, and I think that's an important point to make, because whenever you do start outsourcing and you have a middleman per se answering your DMs and stuff like that, that can get dangerous, because there's misinformation, miscommunication, things like that can happen. So if you do outsource it and you're going to have people answering those questions, probably super important to make sure that's somebody that understands like all of your processes, all of your, pre-post care instructions. Like it would almost have to be like so detailed out, which is fine if you want to do that. But, I think you and I have an OCD, probably just from our baseline professions, that we would just want to answer those questions directly.
Yeah, I don't know. Don't get me wrong. I trust a lot of people to do a lot of things, but for me, it's just my relationship with my clients is the most important thing. I don't care if I'm ever famous on social media. I don't care if like anybody knows my name outside of the DMV, but I want all of my patients to be able to walk away after an appointment with me and only have good things to say. And like I said, one of the feedbacks that I've gotten is just been, it's easy to get in contact with me. That might come back and bite me in the butt at some point. Hopefully not. But I have friends who are very, very big on social media in this industry, and they'll sit down and they have thousands of DMs from injectors, from reps, from patients, from prospective patients, and there's no way to go through them. And same thing with their email inbox. And I'm like, well, how do you follow up with the patients who are actually in your chair? And that's, I think, like always been a fear of mine.
Right. Yeah. Because you do think about your heavy hitters, and I'm not like, I don't want to start dropping names because I don't want to put people on the spot, but I think we all know who the heavy hitters are in social media and who are like top tier injectors, this, that, the other. I cringe at thinking about how many DMs that they have to answer.
Right?
I'm
like you have to love doing social media if you're going to be big on it. And I think when I first started, I was like, oh, I want to be that. I want to be that. And then when I sat down and thought about it, I was like, you can't be that and also be who I am. Yeah. If that makes sense. Yeah. Like, I really like my work in the ER. I really like, I do a lot of teaching for one of the big hospitals near us. I really like the teaching that I do, not for aesthetics, but for like ER medicine. And then I like my boyfriend. I like having a social life. I like our 3 dogs. I travel a ton. I mean, we go on 7 or 8 like big vacations a year. We have family all over the US. We're about to head to Michigan next week for like a week and a half to visit my boyfriend's family. You can't necessarily do all that and be a business owner, because I know pretty much everyone in this gang at this point is a business owner or aspires to be one. You guys have known me for a while. That's like my nightmare. Like, that's my absolute nightmare.
Sarah's mantra is don't give me anything I can't walk away from, because she needs her vacations.
Yeah.
And but I think like, who you are, right? You know who you are in this industry, you know what you want. And I think like that's crucial. Like, number 1, know who you are. Number 2, have your goal on social media. Like, are you there for before and afters? Are you there to connect with patients? Or are you there to be Instagram famous? Like, it's not wrong to want to be Instagram famous either. I think it's just like, you have to know where you're going with that directive.
And, being Instagram famous, I feel like you have to put a lot of your life on social media, which I don't know about you. I just don't like doing.
No. I mean, most of mine, if you follow me, well, I know you follow me, but like if anybody on here is following me, most of mine are like lighthearted, humorous. Like, I like reels that make me happy, make me laugh. Dog reels, obviously, because we're all psychotic about our dogs.
Yep.
But, and I think that's kind of like that's my personality on my social media. So, I've had my patients tell me, oh my gosh, I love following you on social media because like your things you post just make me laugh. They're not even things I create, but they're things that like, make me happy. And I think that part of your personality comes out on your social media. So important. And that's kind of how I bond with my patients is, they know that I'm kind of a goofball.
Yeah, I mean, my patients, they have no idea that I have a boyfriend. They have no idea like what part of DC I live in. But they know they know I have 3 dogs.
Yeah.
Because that's all I post about.
Yeah.
Is like before and afters, updates on like the scheduling or anything like that, and my 3 dogs.
Yeah.
Because that's really all I want to give up on social media.
Mm-hmm.
I like having a little bit of privacy.
Right. Yeah, but that's your important. Like those are again, back to things that matter to you, things that are important. Um, and like I really think for me it was just becoming overwhelming. And I just had to say, like social media is not really that important to me. Like I'll use it. I kind of got in the mentality that you were like, I have to be careful with it. Because it can make you feel bad. It can become a destructive behavior. It's unproductive activity. And I like my privacy as well. There's some people who put everything out there and that's their thing. But I don't even know if anybody, well, I guess I do have some personal photos on mine from a long time ago. So I guess they would see my husband, but they don't know too much about him. So, that's kind of a nice boundary. But something else I kind of wanted, like you brought up Lori Robertson, and I think she's probably one of the first people that I actually followed as well, because as I was getting into this, I was very self-taught, self-learned, self-motivated. And she had a ton of education on there, like very useful education things. But her and Dr. Gideon are also like very funny people. Like they make funny posts, they make funny TikToks. And I think they have I just wanted to kind of mention, they have a great balance of like things that can be funny, but also very professional at the same time.
Yes. And I think that's the other thing is I like to maintain like some level of professionalism on my Instagram. I'm not an overly professional person. If you are in one of my if you're in one of my consults, like we're chatting about all of the things. But on Instagram, I really just want to maintain like I'm not going to post photos of me going out to the bars and things like that. I'm not going to post personal vacation photos. It's more of just here's a directory of my work. And here's an ability to contact me directly if you have any questions or concerns.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think for you, that's like, you found that nice balance. And so, I think the biggest takeaway for all of this, for all the injectors that are listening or have questions or concerns, I think Sarah's top 3 is have your boundaries, have your work-life balance, put a hard stop on things, and really just figure out like how you're going to use this, it's a tool. So how do you use this tool to your benefit and what you're trying to accomplish as an injector, I think is, the most important things that you taught me about it, and I really encourage everybody to kind of take, if you're feeling overwhelmed by it, definitely take a step back and think about things. And that's, I think the other thing, and this is probably going to be, it'll probably be a whole separate podcast between you and I, because I really think Sarah and I cringe at the idea of the stigma of the part-time injector.
Oh my God. Yeah. Oh, I've struck.
That's a whole nother topic, whole different day, because it's something you and I are kind of passionate about. I think part-time injectors get a bad rap, and Sarah and I have been in medicine for a long time, and we were those quote unquote part-time injectors that we were like, hey, wait a minute, like we're really trying to do a good job here, guys. Like we're not just trying to make a couple extra Botox bucks on the side.
No, and we've talked about this with being a part-time injector. Just my only advice to anyone in this industry is do what makes you happy. If social media makes you happy, do it. What makes me happy is being able to contact my clients and have a direct link to them. So that's why I keep social media. I enjoy keeping up with my clients. I had one this morning send me her engagement photos. Her boyfriend had DM'd me and gotten her appointment for lip filler, and he was asking like when before engagement photos. And so he got her a present. He was like, but you need to see her, essentially like 6 weeks ago now. So I did it, and then she sent me the photos this morning, and like I like that connection with my patients. So that's why I keep social media up. And everyone's response to that is like, why don't you use email? I'm a millennial. I don't know. I don't like email. Instagram DMs just seem better.
You're like, what's email, you old farts?
God, I think if I opened my work email right now for the med spa, the only person who emails me is my boss. That's it.
Yeah.
I have no client emails. Everyone just contacts me through Instagram. But that's what makes me happy. So same thing with being a part-time injector. I'm still happy working in the ER. So guess what? I'm going to keep doing it. And, you know, there's a lot of injectors out there who are part-time injectors and part-time educators in the industry. And that's okay too. If education makes you happy, it makes me happy, then go do it. But I think you shouldn't be judged for what makes you happy. So just do what makes you happy.
Agreed. 100%. And that's pretty much like just what our gang has like really drawn everybody into. I think everybody here in our gang is pretty balanced. We're all off kilter. We all have our quote unquote serial killer traits, which Sarah, by the way, has everybody tell everybody about your serial killer traits, Sarah, because it just cracks me up. I don't know what mine is yet. I feel like I do, but I don't.
It's actually funny because the first podcast I filmed, Brandon brought this up as well, because I think it was like on our very first trip that I told everyone about it. And I don't know, it's just something my friend group like from college came up with, or maybe my family, I'm not sure. But like everyone has your serial killer trait, and it's just like the weird thing that you do. So we went over all of ours during the first podcast episode that I filmed.
Okay.
And you still don't know yours, which is a little bit upsetting to me.
I feel like mine might have been vacuuming the garage, because I found myself
a weird
like,
one.
Well, you know, Brandon and I are like, I mean, my house is like constantly like cluttered and a mess because I'm like touch and go here and there, and I start a project, walk away. But like I found myself so I live in Florida. So of course, like my laundry is in the garage. That's just like how these old houses in Florida are. One day I'm going to have it inside. I just haven't figured out how yet. But so I was like out there, and I can't stand dirt on my feet or like anything. So I like started vacuuming the garage, and I was like, what am I doing right now? And I thought maybe this is my serial killer trait. I don't know. Cause I was like, I could see, you know, an intro to a Snapped or like murder mystery of somebody vacuuming dirt off their garage, but I don't know. It's just a weird behavior.
Everyone has one. And after anybody who listens to this podcast is now going to be like, what is my serial killer trait?
Exactly. Well, I mean, it's a good game to play. Like if you're with a group of friends, family, or you're, you know, I think we were in Utah, maybe before we did our Ruma training. I'm not sure if it was that trip or which trip it was.
I think it was. And that was when I met everyone. And like looking back on that trip, I'm not quite sure why you guys stayed friends with me.
Oh my God.
I walked up and I was like, dude, what's your serial killer trait? Let's go.
Meanwhile, anybody that knows Sarah, she's like the Barbie of the group because she's, how tall are you?
6'3".
6'3". So it's like, I'd have to put us in the line. I think it would be Sarah, Ashley, Brandon. Brandy's in there somewhere. I mean, obviously you're first. And then like me, Ashley, Evelyn, Angela. I don't know. I'd have to look at everybody. But you and I think Evelyn or Ashley are definitely like tallest, shortest in the group. But
oh yeah.
I think the thing that I loved about you the most was just you're so comfortable in your skin. Like huge deal, right? Being comfortable in your skin, confident, comfortable, knows what she wants, like just badass and everything that you do. I truly appreciate and love you. Like, I think our conversation in December really just like solidified, like, not that it didn't before, but just like kind of reiterated, like, God, she just has her head on straight. And I appreciate that. Like we all need that in our like group or gang of people. And it's just so complimentary to everybody. You know, I talked to Evelyn yesterday, like we're all crazy, right? I think we're all nuts, but we all have like very complimentary personalities to one another. So I always implore people, I'm like, find that person that keeps you on a narrow path and can keep you straight. And that definitely happened in December with us, I think.
Yeah. And I mean, I became a PA so young. I was like, I don't know, 23 or 24. I think I graduated when I was 23, about to turn 24. And I just think it's important to, before you enter this industry, just know what you want.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I have so many friends who like reach out to me, especially in the ER now, because the ER is so flexible. Full time is only 10 days a month.
Oh,
So
nice.
you have, for the big university hospital that I worked for, 10 days a month. Granted, 3 of them are night shifts. But I mean, you have 20 days off a month. That's a lot of free time.
Mm-hmm.
So when I started injecting, I didn't ever view it as like a way to make money. I always just kind of viewed it as like an artistic outlet. I was really struggling in the ER because it's just a sad place to be a lot of times.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also really rewarding. But I just didn't have this like artistic outlet that I used to have. So when I started injecting, I was like, oh, this is fun. This is great. Like, sure, some extra cash. Wonderful. And, then when it kind of became busier and I was able to go part-time in the ER, not even part-time, I'm just PRN. I have a lot of friends who reach out because they think of it as like a get rich quick scheme.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys have had that.
Yeah.
People reaching out to you, but that's not it at all. Like, you have to really want to do it and you have to make sure that it makes you happy. I don't know if I just keep repeating myself over and over again. Just do what makes you happy.
Yeah.
If it makes you happy, do it.
Yeah. I mean, that's the whole thing. Like, going back to like what you said, like this get rich quick scheme. I'm like, I have yet to turn a dollar. If I was getting rich at this, I wouldn't be working 5 days a week in the OR and still doing anesthesia full time and this part time, and I think that's a huge misconception. Like, yeah, there are people that maybe hit the floor running. And again, like going back to social media, like it's what we see on social media. Like, oh my God, they're doing so great. Well, maybe they've been at it for 15 years and this is the first year their med spa's made a profit. Or maybe they've taken every dime and reinvested it into their, accounts receivable, and the fact that they owed Allergan $25,000 for an opening order. Like, you don't see that on social media. You just see like a quick post about how they're doing, all this PRP, or like, hey, we're doing tear troughs today and this is great. And I have a nice luxury spa. It's that instant gratification kind of, well, why am I not there yet? Like, you'll get there. You just got to stay, focused on like the why. I think that's what most people say is like, what is your why?
Well, and you see, like, I love where I work now. I absolutely adore it. I'm very vocal that I'm never leaving. I have no desire to open my own business. My dad owned his own business for years, and I'm so thankful that he did. But he wasn't around a lot, and he went from being not around a lot, and then all of a sudden he sold his business, and then he was around all the time, which created a whole new set of problems for high school Sarah.
And high school Sarah's mom, I'm sure.
Oh yeah. Oh my God. I drove them nuts. I was an awful child, but I grew up with that and I don't want it. So I'm very vocal. I really like where I'm at right now. But we all went through stages where we were at some sketchy places.
Oh yeah. Like, that can be a podcast with everybody.
I know.
But it's like the same reverberating theme for everyone's like, yeah.
The problem is so many of us are in the DMV that like everyone kind of knows where we worked. So like, but yeah, we all had the same experience of like, ooh, this industry is very unregulated, especially in Florida. Like,
oh God.
What's going on down there?
that could be a whole podcast in itself as well.
Yeah. So people on social media see me right now and they're like, I work in a great spa. I have great bosses. I'm very vocal about how much I love it. But like, I also had 6 years before this that weren't as great.
Yeah.
And I don't know of a single injector who is still at the place where they currently started.
Yeah, that, and who's posting the terrible times, right? Like, who's posting the bad outcomes where somebody came in and they had migrated filler in their lips that you did? Like, not very many people post that. And a lot of people are quick to be like, not my work, because everybody wants to, have that disclaimer that like, I didn't do this, but like somebody did it, unfortunately. And it happens sometimes, this shit hits the fan and, you get an occlusion or you get this or you get that, but not a lot of people share that. So the struggles of what everybody's going through is definitely not in the forefront of your social media profile. And I think what I really appreciate about our group is like everybody shares that story and they're like, Angela, went to work one day and there's no air conditioning. And they're like, well, just see patients anyway. Too bad, like I go in and there's one vial of Hylenex, like, oh, just go ahead and do all your fillers today. Not a problem. So,
Yep.
And that's not stuff we always are apt to share with people because it's, it's negative. It's negative. It's scary. It feels, like if I posted everything that was going on right now with opening my place, like it would deter 1,000 people from doing it. But
it deterred me. I'd like to make that known. All of you people opening your own practice deterred me. Like there was that imposter syndrome moment of like 2 or 3 years ago where I was like, I could open my own. I'd be fine. This is great. And then I started sitting down talking to people about it. And I was like, oh, so I can't travel like 10 or 12 weeks. I'm out. You guys enjoy. I can't have 3 dogs because I won't have the time. No, I'm done. No, you guys all deterred me. But nobody ever posts the bad stuff on social media.
Nope, it's not what you see. It's not the clickbait you want to hear about. And I think I'm glad we have this podcast because I think it's like an outlet for everybody to kind of get on there and be like, okay, so I'm not crazy. Like Val opened her place and didn't even ask him if there was a hot water heater, and then she realized 3 months in that there's not a water heater there. So I'm like, wait, do I need a water heater? But like you said, you just
wing it. It's problems that you didn't think were going to be problems until all of a sudden it's a huge one. And you're like, wait a second. And that's what I love right now. If I ever have a problem, I just wander over to the other side of the office. I find the doctors I work for and say, hello. So I have a problem and it is now your problem. I'm going home. Goodbye.
Yeah. I love you. See you later.
And like, they are 2 of the busiest people that I know.
Yeah.
And I just don't want that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and it goes for them too. Like, I mean, they
wanted it.
Yeah. Yeah. And they really wanted it, but they're still like, we just see the good on social media. We don't see the bad, but I think, big takeaways are that the bad is, if it's going on for you, it's going on for someone else. Like if it's happening to you, it's happening to someone else. If you have somebody coming in asking for 12 units for their whole face, like it's happening. And I think, we have seen some of that emerge on social media. I think it's just as important though to have those people that you can bounce it off of and be like, hey, what was the DLI, the whole like the DLI getting knocked out. Like I knocked out my own. And like I just reiterated to like one of our other injectors in the gang. I was like, hey, like it happens, like it's okay, like don't beat yourself up about it. And she knows that. But like having that person in the background that's like, don't worry about it, like look at my smile. Like it's gonna be okay.
It's so funny that you say that because probably 2 weeks ago I got a DM from a client and I had done her Botox and filler like 6 weeks ago. And she's like, my smile looks all messed up. And she sent me a photo of it and I had done her masseters. I've done her masseters like 50 times. She's followed me through 3 med spas now. I love her dearly. And she just had a little bit of migration to the Resorius. So she has an asymmetric smile. This was 2 weeks ago and it's already resolved, I was lucky that it only, she only had it for I think 6, maybe 7 weeks. And she didn't even, she's also great. She didn't reach out to me for the longest time because she was like, oh, I figured it was a filler and it just needed time to settle. And I was like, oh my God, you're like everyone's dream client. Any other client would have been blowing me up. So anyway, I sent her a DM, explained what happened. I was like, it's definitely not the filler. My bad. And I did send her a photo because I've knocked out my own Resorius before.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I sent her a photo. Yeah. And I was like, oh, this is exactly what happened to me. So sorry. Like, I'll make note of it in your chart. She was so nice and so thankful to have an explanation. And like, we just moved on. But I'm not going to post that on social media. I guess now I am because I just talked about it on a podcast. But
education time.
But I'm not going to like post on social media like, hey, I messed up. Thankfully, it was with a client who was so incredibly kind and didn't care. But no, I'm going to post that I only do great work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, but that's what people want to see. They don't want to see like, oops, I had an accident. Oops, I did it again.
Right? I'm like, oh, I am going to do it again at some point in my career. But I think that it's important to remember like everything you see on social media is not true. And
not the glitz and glam we think it is, right?
No. And if somebody has 200,000 followers, like that is a great thing for them. It's just, it seems like a lot of work.
Yeah. Well, something else like I just thought of just now is like So one thing that really, okay, like my pet peeve irks the crap out of me. And I'm never like, I don't get confrontational on social media. So like, I think another rule I follow is like, don't be confrontational. Don't dog other providers. Like think, you know, like be very careful. Like, you know, rules in life. Don't bring up politics at family dinners, things like that. I think that's super important for injectors. Like, don't start hating on each other on social media. Like, this isn't a place to bully people, things like that. But I will say, like, please stop filtering your before and afters because that's unfair information to patients. Super big pet peeve of mine that, like, you know, you'll look at something and you can tell. And I think this is another reason that I like don't want people to read too much into like before and afters. Like, you know, my patients in Florida are advanced age. They have a lot of skin concerns. Some of these women have never done anything to their face in their entire life. And it's really hard to play like a corrective game. This was like something that really bothered me because I'm like, man, why don't I get these great results like other people have? And so what I noticed was like, okay, well, those clients are 30 years old, Valerie. Like they don't need much correction in their mid face. You have a 62-year-old client in your chair with sun damage and never used Botox and never has done a chemical peel or has never done this or that, the other. And they want a full mid-face rejuvenation and it's going to take some time, you know, but I would
surgery.
Or surgery.
It's going to take surgery.
You know, and if they're like, I really don't want to have surgery, like I'm on an uphill battle, right? Like this is a really hard thing to get at. But it's not that 30-year-old client. Like their lips aren't going to look like a 30-year-old's lips. So I think sometimes I would beat myself up about my results because I'm like, man, I just didn't get that lift I wanted. Or like, you know, it's going to take like 5 treatments and all this other stuff. And can I get them there? You know, and meanwhile, I'm comparing myself to somebody that did, you know, a 40-year-old. And, you know, that patient's going to be completely different than my patient. So kind of my other takeaway on that social media is, you know, don't expect the results someone else has because number one, maybe you don't have the training to do it. You're not there yet. And then also at the same time, like, let's hold ourselves to a standard that you can accomplish with your patients as well.
Yeah. And like, just don't compare yourself to people. Again, going back to do what makes you happy. Comparison's never going to make you happy. So that's why whenever I log on to Instagram, you can now like favorite accounts. They come up with like a little green star.
Oh, okay.
Like a close friend, I think it's what it's called. I go to my close friends list. I have like less than 30 accounts. They're all educational. And I just scroll through that feed, see if there's anything that interests me. And then I log out.
Okay. I don't know about the close friends thing. I need to figure that out. Again, my age.
You're one of my close friends. Don't worry.
I'm like, listen, so if you've ever listened to Kevin Harrington, he's like, I know like about it, but I like don't do it.
Yeah.
I always think like I'm getting to that age, like, yeah, I know about social media, but like I don't do it. And that's kind of where I feel like I'm getting to as well.
Exactly. But I finally put everyone on a list because I was just like, you know what? I'm logging in. I'm wondering why I'm not getting those results. What are they using? Is this filtered? Is it not filtered? You know, and I finally just realized like I'm confident in my skills. I think I do good work. And I pay a lot of money to go learn new skills every year. So I'm doing everything right, but it's just not worth it to compare myself to other people.
Yeah. I think you hit the nail on the head there. I think the times I was feeling that I was probably not where I was at with injecting and didn't have the skills or anything. Maybe not the skills, but hadn't advanced my skills to a certain level yet. So
exactly.
But so this was good. I know we're coming up on our I know Brandon's probably going to be listening to this knowing that we're probably exceeded our time frame, but I love talking to you.
What is the time frame? I don't actually know anything about this.
I just showed up. 30 minutes, maybe. We've been talking for an hour, I think, 45, something like that. I don't know. And if you guys want to reach us, you can always reach out to Sarah on her Instagram. Your handle is, Sarah?
Injector_Sarah, SARA, no H.
God, we're so original, and mine's Injector_Valerie.
It's just
we really,
easy.
we really hit that one out of the park. I wanted Botox and bees, or like Beauty and the Bees, because I keep bees. We'll talk about that later. But both those handles were taken, so it just went with the basic injector_Valerie. That's how you
Makes
can
it
find
easier.
me. Yeah. And if you guys want to reach out to us, we are always on the Aesthetics Injector Gang email. You can reach out to us, and we will be definitely dropping some more good information in the future about our crazy lives, business, and whatever else comes up. But definitely stay hydrated. Get your 3 drinks, guys.
Thank you.
All right. I'll talk to you later, Sarah.
Bye.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, share, and comment. Follow us on Instagram at The Aesthetics Injector Gang.